Go beyond market headlines to understand the reasons for the day's movers and shakers. And get your portfolio ready for tomorrow. Beaming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Hang Seng and the Taiwanese index both trading with a cut of red.
There's a deep understanding of each other.
Previous trading session, we went to around 24,900. That's the first level of support that I'm looking at.
Absolutely flat for the frontline index, just as indicated by the GIFT Nifty.
What we'd be looking for here is a push closer to that 4,100 area. You take some profits and look for a consolidation pattern to develop.
There is no regulatory pressure. On them in terms of
reducing the stake.
We are so far snapping that 4-day winning streak. Nifty is below the 25,100 mark for now.
The third point of contention really has to do with Merrily Mistry's appointment to the Tata Sons board.
आज उसी देश के लगभग हर जिले में 5G पहुंच चुका है.
Allowing this kind of funding shows the confidence with the regulator, as in the banking system.
19% growth in their jewelry business, something that the street likes.
It's been a little volatile today. We did see market surge, but from those levels, we did see a fall as well, almost 100 points off from the lows. Now, again, there's a recovery.
Well, that was the day so far. Hello and welcome to Closing Bell. We're coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studio. I'm Nigel, and in a while, I'll have my co-anchor Prashant who will be joining in as well. The markets, well, taking a bit of a pause today. Par for the course, one would say that the Nifty is down close to around 30 points. The good news is we were down close to around 100 points at one point of time, and we have seen a bit of a recovery, as that intraday chart is telling you. And the Nifty Bank, though it's down close to around 200 points, remember, it's been on a winning streak. So that as well as pause for breath. But I'll tell you what, the dip as well out there has got bought into. Tech is going to be in focus from tomorrow onwards once we start getting results. For the time being, it's going into that result season with some kind of optimism, because that one, in fact, is up close to around 1.5%. And keep in mind, the Nasdaq overnight actually was the one that was under some pressure. But first up, let's tell you what we have on the show. The market has recovered off the day's lows to around the flat line with a mild negative bias. Nifty trading around the 25,100 odd mark. The Nifty Bank is also holding on to that 56,000 mark. IT and metals, they lead the gains. Some of the Motherson comes under pressure as the key customer, BMW, cuts China volume growth expectations. Banks, though, continue to remain in focus as the RBI releases its draft for the implementation of the expected credit loss framework. The management of PNB as well as SBI both tell us that they see very limited impact from the proposed norms. And Titan, well, that's the top gainer of the Nifty, building on gains after delivering a solid quarterly update in the second quarter. Well, how do you position yourself, though, in the final hour of trade? Mitesh Thakkar of Bonanza Portfolio joins us on the show. Mitesh, some kind of profit taking today? Worried, not worried? Uptrend is intact? Or, what would you do on the index first?
Yeah, not very nice to answer your question. In fact, I had mentioned that post yesterday's sell-off, yesterday also we kind of closed lower than the intraday high. I said we are slightly overbought and some pullback of profit booking might happen. And as long as we are about 25,000, I think it should be good. We in fact got a low from 25,008.5. And I think, in the next 2-3 days, if we can hold and not close below this level, good chance that we'll see continuation of this up move. In fact, 30 should be your entry zone with a 60-70 point kind of a stop loss.
It's showing some signs of life. I don't know whether it's a hope trade or not, but my director will pull up, today both the two indices and then a year to date to tell you the kind of underperformance. But how are you reading the index? That's the tech index.
So I think one, it is reversing from extremely oversold levels. Now we had this big gap down on the 22nd of September. So around 36,000, 36,400 are the near-term targets. But I suspect a bigger reversal will come into play if we can get past this 36,500 zone. And then we can even look at a test or move till about 38,000 level. So positive in the short term and hoping that the first supply levels are cleared without much of a hitch. And then I think we can look at continuation.
Got it. Okay. All right, Midesh. We'll keep coming back to you and get your update with regard to how the markets are going. A stock actually from the broader markets, it's really bucking the trend and should come up for you on the screen, is Jacob bursting away. That's up close to around 15%. So I think it's a bit of a rub-off effect of the new airport that's going to be opening up at Navi Mumbai. Probably that's the reason. Stock is spiking up and spiking up in style. The other one is ITI. That as well is up, now up close to around 13%. So phenomenal mood is what we're seeing on that name as well. But let's focus on the banking names then. We caught up with the management of Punjab
Bank Executive Mr. Santosh Nair, being a top contender. Any comments on that?
I don't have any idea about it.
All right. Reiterating, Mr. Chandra, that PNB Housing Finance should be receiving a new boss very, very soon. Telling Ritu and told us as well a few sessions ago that by the end of this month, we could probably see a new boss at PNB Housing Finance. So that's the stock that's going to be in focus. I'll tell you what, let's talk about better times then. Titan, that's glittering in today's trading session. The birthday boy Mangalam joins us to tell us how their quarterly update. And Mangalam, you could let us in on this one. You know what? Did you contribute?
I did not contribute to it.
Then tell us about the numbers.
No gold, no watches, perhaps maybe some perfumes from Skin. But tell you what, it's a good set of numbers that is coming from Titan. On their base, a 19% growth that the company has reported. People were worried that, the footfalls would be lower because of the higher gold prices. We here have been talking about how they've risen over 50% over the last 1 year or so. There has been a substantial ticket size increase, but the buyer number hasn't decreased as much. In fact, there has only been a marginal decrease. And that's something that the street likes. It's on a high base that these numbers have come by as well. Because same time last year, we had that high influx of gold because of the customs duty reduction. And this year, early onset of the festive season has done well for them. But it's not just, gold business. In the Tanishq, Mia, as well as Zoya business, studded jewelry has actually grown in high teens, which is much higher than plain gold jewelry. People have decided to play the gold price rise via gold coins. So gold coins have done extremely well this time around for the company as well. Large part of the business coming in from jewelry, not particularly bad, holding steady. The other parts, which are growth drivers, are growing very fast. So if you look at, something like an international business, 86%, Carrot Lane, typically likely to do well when, gold prices are high as people are buying lower price variants. That's growing 30%. Watches, eye care, steady between 9 to 12%. And we are seeing some traction in their emerging businesses as well. In the fragrance business and women's bags in particular, up 50 to 90%. Brokerages are fairly happy as well. Morgan Stanley has an overweight rating on the stock, and they believe that, their expectation was a 12% growth. The company has gone ahead and reported 18% growth in Tanishq, Maya, as well as Zoya. And the buyer growth hasn't been as, the decline hasn't been as much. The only thing that you have to look at is the valuation. Now, on an absolute basis, if you look at Titan's valuation, it's always been expensive. But, people are saying that it's worth it largely because the pedigree of the company, the growth rate that it has been showing, the absolute dominance that there is in the jewelry segment. And additionally, if you look at absolute valuation, that is expensive. But if you look at relative valuation, the premium is not as much as what it used to be versus other players in the past. So not only have we seen Titan move higher, but we've also seen a bigger move in names like Kalyan Jewellers, Tangamail, and all the others. So the differential between the valuation of the others versus Titan has begun to narrow, and that makes the street a little more positive on Titan than the others.
Got it. Okay. All right. Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. And I think I've wished you enough. Have a good evening. Have a blast, brother. Sonal's already gone home. I believe she's decorating the house. Baby Vani as well is going to do a bit of a jig. So thanks a lot for joining in.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you.
Well, let's welcome Sudeep Bandopadhyay, who's with us on the show. Hi, Sudeep. Good afternoon. Good to see you in. Titan, people kept finding the other Titan, but actually Titan itself has done well enough. What's your view on the stock at these levels?
Oh, undoubtedly, Nigel, this has been one of our favorite stocks for a very, very long time, and we continue to maintain our view. This time again, they have beaten the expectations. About 19% growth is quite commendable on the base which they have. So very clearly, I think a lot of things are going good. Amongst the multiple components, the studded jewelry component doing well is excellent from the margin perspective. The smaller businesses also have started performing, and that's a good news. I'm a little worried on the Taneira which is the sari retail, which I think is not keeping up pace with the growth of other businesses. But the newer segments like the women's handbag, perfumes, international business, all of them are doing exceedingly well. And I think Mangalam summed up pretty well. I think though the multiples are about 51 times FY27, but still, if you compare with a Kalyan or Senco or some of the other PN Gadgil and all that, I think the relatively it's not overvalued definitely, and the kind of performance they're showing from a long-term perspective, I think this is definitely a good buy or a good hold at current levels.
Okay, all right, Sudeep, and also my co-anchors with me now. Prashant's joining me in the studio. Prashant, that sort of a day, some kind of profit taking, par for the course, one would say.
Well, what a day, right, Nigel? Though, right, up and down and down and up, and so it's just intraday. We've not had this kind of a day for a while. I mean, it's been either sideways or it's been either up or down, but we've had everything today thrown in. On the upper bounds, I think we got to almost about 25,200. At the lower end, we sold off 150 points to 25,020. Then went up to about 25,140, and now we're somewhere in between, sort of drifting at this point in time. But there's enough individual stock activity, stock action, which I think that remains the focus at this point in time. Maybe by the way, the market breadth is slightly negative. 1,800 stocks are lower and about 1,300 stocks are higher. And that is something to take note of as well. Samvardhana Motherson is the next one that we want to sort of just focus on. It's under mild pressure following the profit warning from one of their key clients, that is BMW. What's triggering the caution? Let's go across to Sudarshan for details on this one. So over to you.
So over the last two sessions, if you see, the stock of Samvardhana Motherson has been under pressure. In today's session also, it's down somewhere in the range of 2 to 3%. The reason is it's one of the major clients. That's the luxury car maker BMW. Yesterday, it has come out with its earnings, and in that, it has issued profit warning for the last quarter, that is October to December, in which it has cut volume expectations, and also for the full year, it has reduced EBIT margin guidance. Earlier forecast for EBIT margin was in the range of 5 to 7%. Now company is saying that it's expecting in the range of 5 to 6%. And it's important for Samvardhana Motherson because BMW forms almost 5% of its total consolidated revenue. Now analysts believe that after China, these legacy OEMs might also face the issue in Europe. That might be a more problem for companies like Samvardhana Motherson or Sona BMW or other Indian auto companies which have some major exposure to European companies as well as in the companies in North America too, where also the auto has been under pressure.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that. Sud explains why that stock, in fact, is lower. Sudeep, what do you make of this? Clearly a negative read-through for a company like Samvardhana Motherson.
I agree. I think the news flow is definitely negative at this stage, but I won't be too perturbed with this one news flow. I think there are multiple other factors which are working well for all these auto and companies from India who have global operations and they are integrated with the global OEMs. Like the news flow from India was that there was a record number of luxury car sales during the Navratri season, and which was unprecedented apparently. So there are pockets of good news as well. So yes, this is a temporarily, there's a bit of a dip in the price, but I won't read too much into it.
Okay, all right. I wanted to ask you one more query, Sudeep. On RBL Bank, the street is clearly sensing something is nearing. The stock itself, if I pull up the last couple of months chart at least, it's outperformed the Nifty Bank even when the Nifty Bank went through that corrective phase. Currently, it's moving up on very, very large volumes. In fact, beautiful chart out there from my director. Stock is up 50% in the last 12 months. Maybe we'll pull up a 6-month chart as well, I think, because that's from where it started breaking away. And it's outperformed the Nifty Bank by a large, large margin. What's your view on it? If there is good news as well, how much of it could possibly be in the price? For the time being, the street is sensing something for sure.
I agree with you, Nigel. I think, if you go back to the, really recent history, RBL Bank went down because of asset quality challenges. And, but the problem was limited to 5 or 6 large corporate accounts where they got stuck. it was not a widespread problem. Of course, subsequently, when the microfinance asset quality issues came out, this is for the entire industry. RBL also had a challenge there. They also had a large credit card portfolio where also there was a bit of a challenge because the entire unsecured business was under question mark. But having said that, I think there are green shoots available as far as microfinance is concerned. The asset quality is definitely improving on ground. And the view generally is that things are going to be better. Probably the industry has seen the worst. Now, RBL has a significant microfinance portfolio. We saw the announcement by RBI. The credit card companies definitely benefit because of the change in weightage, which the RBI has proposed now. So that's, again, a positive factor. RBL was well capitalized even before the crisis hit them. And I think there is, of course, scope for further capital raise and further buttressing the capital. But I think the challenges for RBL to a great extent are behind them. It's got a stable management. And, I think things are looking good from RBL perspective. Yes, the valuation has moved up quite a bit. And I'm not sure, whether it can still move up significantly from here. But at current level, I think it's decently priced.
Just pull up the stock of Ixigo, right? Ixigo is down 4.5%. Sudeep, do you track this one? Have you looked at it? This is the OTA.
I think,
but you track it, right? You looked at this. Yeah. Okay. Let me just, allow me to just say for our viewers, right? So there was this release to exchanges. I'm going to come to you, Sudeep, with this question. They put out this release essentially saying that they have received a letter, right, from a potential investor. And they basically put this out to the exchanges, and the letter, which they replicated as is, says this. This is, whoever the potential investor is writing to Ixigo, which they've reproduced in their filing to the exchange. It says, we wish to inform you that we propose to acquire either by ourselves or through our affiliates certain shares in Ixigo by way of secondary acquisitions. As on the date hereof, no definitive agreements or binding arrangements for such proposed acquisitions have been executed by us. Our aggregate shareholding, including that of our affiliates, pursuant to the proposed fundraise by the company and the secondary acquisitions, will not exceed 16% in the company. So that was one. There was one more notification to the exchange, where they basically said there is a board meet day after tomorrow, where they will consider fundraise and issue of securities, etc. I found the first one quite peculiar, Sudeep. I don't know what you made of it. There are companies come out with these fundraise, board meeting, etc. all the time. But to reproduce, potential investors' letter as is to exchanges, I'm not sure. Stock's down 5%. So I don't know if the market's also thinking that something is amiss. But what's your sense? Sudeep.
I completely agree with you, Prashant. It was a bit odd and kind of weird. Normally, this is not how things are done. So there may be some particular reason why they wanted to do it this way. But having said that, I think, leave aside this correction today and what's happening. Overall, this segment is doing very well globally, and not only in India, globally. And I think the potential for growth is significant. They're going ahead, and if they're actually going and raising funds, I'm not talking about this 16% acquisition and all that. That is secondary, so there's no money company is getting. But if there is an independent fundraising, which the company is going ahead with, I think that's a good news for the shareholders' point of view, and that's good news for the company also. The opportunities are huge, and if they're planning to seize the opportunity by raising incremental capital, that's good news.
No, you're absolutely right. The segment's, of course, done very, very well. It's done so well that even companies, New York-listed companies like Make My Trip would like, to get Indian valuations for their business. So we'll probably see some action there as well. But in this particular segment, there is Ixigo, there is Ease My Trip, which I think, of course, has not really done anything. It's gone sideways. So a lot of action, attention here on this one. More on this story later. But Sudeep, thank you very much for joining us. Good speaking with you here on the program. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We come back with Vaibhav Sanghvi on the other side.
Welcome back. Well, the headline index is down close to around roughly around 30 points thereabouts, but a few stocks actually from the broader markets. There are still some winners that are moving up. Reliance Indus Infra, that's the other one that normally moves up on this Navi Mumbai airport news. That's spiked up. And Jaycorp is another stock that's actually trading with some gains in today's session. Reliance Indus Infra, not Reliance Infra. We should get that one up for you on the screen. But it's that time of the show when Hormuz joins in to put a spotlight on some of the top movers and shakers. Hormuz.
Yeah, broader market names are continuing to buzz around, and the name that pops up today, first up, is Inco Elecon. Remember, the stock was in focus last month because of the promoters planning to sell stake through that offer for sale. But today, the stock is locked in a 20% upper circuit. It's the fifth straight day of gains for the stock, the biggest single day gain since April. Volumes also on the higher side. 19 lakh shares have traded today, 20-day average of just over a lakh. And yesterday, there was news on the exchanges that Vijay Kedia, his firm, has bought stake in the company around about 57,000 shares, and the stock has moved higher today. It's turned positive for 2025 as a result of today's move, and was doing fairly well in last year as well, was up 27%, but the stock had quadrupled in 2023. The hospital stocks are continuing to do well after those recent moves that were announced. Yatharth Hospitals is one of them, 9% higher now on the stock. It's gained in 2 out of the 3 sessions this week. The volumes are all set to be the highest since January of this year, and more than 30 lakh shares have traded today on Yatharth, the 20-day average of just around about 4 lakh shares. And since the start of March, the stock has risen every single month this year, including the month of October, and as a result of which the stock is now up over 2.5 times from its IPO price, which is around 300 rupees a share. A PSU name on the list today is ITI. Is a 6th straight day of gains for the stock, still holding on to gains of around 14%, and the volumes today are set to be the highest since December of last year. And take a look at the volumes today. More than 6 crore shares of ITI have been traded today compared to a 20-day average of just 6 lakh shares. Now, ITI, just like KIOCL, falls into that category of very little free float because the government has a 90% stake here and a special national investment fund has an 8% stake. So that leaves very little free float in the market for ITI. And lastly, of course, the stock that has been holding on to gains all through the day and could well be the stock of the day is Titan. And a 2-day losing streak snapped today is the 3rd highest volumes that the stock has seen since November of last year. We had more than 41 lakh shares that have been traded on Titan today. The 20-day average is just 10 lakhs, so 4x of its 20-day average today. And as a result of this move, the stock has broken about both its 50 and its 100-day moving average as well.
Thanks very much, Hormuz, for that. Yatharth, I mean, what a move, right? I mean, coming through with large volumes, as you pointed out as well. It's basically doubled. You know, it's been around for 3 years now. This is the 3rd year that Yatharth has been in the market. Listed in December of 23. It came to the market at 300, closed that year at about 380. It's 830 rupees now. So, not a bad outcome for Yatharth Hospitals. And of course, others have all done very, very well. Vaibhav Sanghvi, CEO at Ask Hedge Solutions. Vaibhav, good to have you with us here. Thanks for joining us. You know, I think there is I was just thinking, BSC has launched, or who's launched? There's a hospital index, ETF. Which you can buy. I think stocks are all, I think, is made up of some 10 hospital companies. Any thoughts on the space, Vaibhav, and what to do here? Because it's completely re-rated in the last 2 years. Most companies have re-rated.
I think, Prashant, the opportunity in a country like India, especially in the segment of healthcare, continues to be pretty robust. And from a forward-looking perspective, I think there's a long way to go. Now, of course, every company would have their own capacity increase in terms of the plans, along with optimization of revenue per bed. So it depends on their individual companies' kind of efficiency levels with respect to the whole business, where you would probably ideally want to see return on capital employed and then kind of go and invest into select companies. But on an overall basis, I think my belief is that the opportunity itself is pretty huge. So virtually most of the companies doing even on an average basis also will continue to do well.
Okay, all right. Hi, Vaibhav. Good afternoon. Good to see you, Ed. How are you feeling about the markets, though? underperformance, par for the course, and things should look up from here? Or do you think there's still too much of uncertainty that maybe our markets will continue to underperform? Your take on that? I think you want to come in on with a word on the FI flows as well. Should it turn around?
Sure, Nigel. I think, an extremely important point, and we have been, as a market, pretty much huge underperformer for this year as compared to the other emerging markets. Now, there are many reasons to it, and one of them is basically that one on relative growth numbers. At the same time, looking at the other artificial intelligence opportunities in countries like China, Korea, Taiwan, they have been kind of seeing rebalancing in their favor as against the India. We had seen that in India a few years ago was having an allocation which is at overweight as compared to the other emerging markets, whereas now we are at this point in time we are actually underweight the other markets. So all in all, looking at a 12-year decadal low ownership of FPI, along with underweight position in the emerging market basket, our view is that this is a key to kind of see that the market kind of breaks that range, from a medium to long-term perspective.
Okay, all right. One theme that you have liked is these platform themes. And some of them have done very, very well. From the lows, whether you look at a Paytm, Swiggy, Eternal, erstwhile Zomato, they've all done well. Even Nykaa, if you want to put it in that. Do you think that the platform theme is just heating up?
Of course, I think platform is a unique combination of a power of advantage in technology, along with the overall consumption push which we are seeing from an economic perspective. So our view is basically that the whole space within the platform plays will continue to do very well, not only in the stock prices, but in terms of the underlying market share, which they will be able to kind of keep on increasing as well. So we are very constructive on the whole segment, and our view is basically in the next few years, they'll continue to keep growing their market shares.
Okay, and earnings season's round the corner. The private sector banks will have to do the heavy lifting if this market needs to move up. You think they're set for more? If I look at Kotak Mahindra Bank or HDFC Bank, their quarterly numbers actually were quite good, the operational update that they give.
See, I think, yes, the quarterly numbers have been a little better than expected. The only caveat is basically that the net interest margins across the banks would be slightly under pressure, purely because of the repricing of loans versus your fixed deposits. Our view is basically that this quarter we might see to some extent bottoming out of net interest margins, or probably it may kind of have an effect one more quarter, provided the interest rates are stabilized. And if that is the case, then the focus will then shift to growth. And from a growth perspective, while a broader economy is doing well, especially on the consumption side, those guys who have deeper penetration in the personal loan segment will not only kind of grow, but at the same time improve in terms of the margins as well. So our view is basically this quarter results may be probably a little subdued, but that is an opportunity actually should be taken to kind of load up the banks. And in addition to that, if FPI flows kind of return back, then the first target would be the financial space or the banking space wherein they would invest as well. So I think this is a sector for the next 12 to 24 months can be looked at for a decent up move.
Okay, all right. So private banks is what you like. What about tech? There's a debate that goes straight down the middle. There's an equal number of people who are optimistic, and there are equal number of people who are pessimistic. Which camp are you moving into?
Unfortunately, I mean, as we see things from a technology sector perspective, the discretionary demand not coming back. At the same time, more importantly, I think the revenue pool on overall basis under pressure purely because of improving efficiencies due to AI. And close to about 35 to 40% of the code now being written, in AI. Our view is that the revenue pressures will continue. Of course, the margins may kind of hold up purely because you're deriving some efficiencies. But in an industry where revenue is under pressure, our view is that from a medium to longer term perspective, we will have to wait for, to get constructive, to see concrete evidence of that coming back into place. So till then, we would be probably underperforming, or we would be keeping them in the category of underperformers.
Okay, all right. And those are live visuals, I think, that are coming in there of the Navi Mumbai airport. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well out there with Chief Minister, Mr. Fadnavis is there. I think Mr. Shinde as well as Mr. Pawar. All of them out there. So looks beautiful, actually. I saw that wide angle out there. Looks pretty good. And all the top ministers out there at that inauguration as well. So got another airport. So eases things up a little bit. But getting back to the markets, Vaibhav, final question. We are looking at the Fed action. We're looking at monetary policy, measures, fiscal measures as well. What about politics? Since we had some of our ministers on screen right now, how important is the upcoming state elections?
See, I think we have seen numerous amount of state elections come and go. Honestly, the markets, apart from having a reaction on 1 or 2 days, honestly comes back squarely to the earnings, on what the companies would post earnings from a medium-term perspective. So honestly, we don't lay much of stress on the, on the temporary political kind of changes which may happen from a state-to-state perspective. Yes, of course, general elections are always important, and that is something we always keep a track of. But otherwise, from a state perspective, that's something we'll continue to, pass in that sense from a judgment perspective.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot, Vaibhav, for joining in and giving us your view on, the stocks that you like, private sector banks, some of those platform plays as well, is what Vaibhav likes, and he's optimistic that the Nifty actually will start finding its feet from here on. One stock before we slip into that short break, I think BSE should come up for you. We saw a bit of a bounce that maybe the actions may not be that stringent on the exchange. For the time being, BSE is the stock that's actually moved to the high point of the day. Slip into a break, or when we come back, we'll get you a check on dealing room chatter, because Nimesh is back. We'll also give you some technical calls.
Okay, welcome back. Markets, of course, are down about, 60 points. It's been a absolute yo-yo kind of a session with, the market being higher at about 25,200 and then selling off and then recovering. And then, of course, this is the second big sell-off that we've seen. Let's bring in Nimesh now, who's been working the phones, trying to get a sense of what's happening out there in dealing rooms. D Street chatter. Nimesh, take it away. What are you picking up? And welcome back, by the way.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you. So I would say it's a day of a profit booking. We've seen a bit of momentum of late, and now at higher levels there is supply coming in. So twice since in today's trade, we've seen a bit of profit booking at higher levels. So that's a kind of a day. Today's market seems to be. But from a flow perspective, again, it's a mixed day of trade. A bit of selling from large institutions. So that's the big call. But I guess from here on, the outperformance and underperformance will largely, to a larger extent, will depend upon the Q2 earnings. So to say, there is a bit of buying interest back in the technology stocks today out of the TCS numbers. So that's going to be a big trigger to watch out for the entire technology space. And the general sense is that TCS may not disappoint in terms of Q2 earnings. So that's something to watch out for. The index which is under pressure today seems to be the PSU index. And as I said, a bit of a profit booking theme. And that's largely dragged by the railway stocks. We've seen a bit of an uptake in railway stocks of late, a bit of profit booking in today's trade. But in general, I guess Q2 is something which, earnings is something which is going to set the tone from here on in terms of individual reactions, at least till the earnings season kicks in.
In terms of stocks, Nimesh, what's the chatter?
Well, lots of deal and buzz going around. But the first stock on my list is Infosys. That's been buzzing in trade today. In general, the IT pack has done well, and Infosys stands out. I understand some very strong buying as well from large institutions. And for Infosys, there is a very strong buzz or an indication that the company is likely to bag a very large order soon. So that's a trigger there. The second name is GMM Pfaudler. This week, the stock is at 5%. The volumes have picked up, and the move has been on strong delivery volumes. Some HNI seems to be active buyers as well. And for GMM, there is a strong indication that maybe you'll see a large block in GMM Pfaudler very soon. So that's a trigger there. The third name is Ellenberry Gases, a recent listing. From the recent highs of around 600, the stock has seen a decent correction. Now just 10% away from the IPO price of 400 rupees. My sense is there is a selling going on from a domestic mutual fund. That's likely to get over very soon. So watch out for large delivery volumes in Ellenberry, and you might see a bit of an uptick from there. And the last is a couple of stocks where the market is anticipating fundraising very soon. V2 Retail and a very small company called Ratanveer Precision. A small company, 800 crore market cap, but in both these names, I'm getting a sense that both these companies are likely to raise funds by QIP very soon.
निमेश, ये तो आज का हो गया, पिछले 5 दिन का भी
I was away from phone, away from chatter, away from everything for the last 5 days. So today is the first active day for me.
That's difficult to believe, but anyway, thanks very much. So that's DC Chatter back with Nimesh. Well, what's the F&O sort of positioning looking like as we track this market? Nigel has walked across to the F&O desk with exactly that. Nigel, over to you.
Well, some kind of profit taking, par for the course, at least as of now, till the lower levels get protected. And since the markets have cooled off, the India VIX from bottomed out levels has moved mildly up. So it's up close to 2-3% the last time I checked. The PCR, well, that as well has cooled off now, which is a good sign. We were getting to that elevated level, went to around 1.35 or thereabouts. It came to around 1.03, and now, in fact, it's down to around 0.87. By the time we wind up, I think it'll be sub that 0.85 or thereabouts. So the PCR cooling off, actually, it's a good sign for the longer term. What played out then today? The call writers, they believe they're back in the game, particularly the 25,200 call. Aggressively written. The premium out there is down by close to around 50%. So remember, those call writers, they are banking on the 25,300 level, not getting broken on the upside. The 25,100 call as well, that is what has seen a big open interest addition today. Close to around 90 lakh shares getting added out there. And the premium out there has come down from around 150 rupees. It's come down to around 77 rupees. So those call writers, they are banking on that 25,250 odd level holding out. So that 25,250 to 25,300, important resistance mark on the upside. And we have seen in the last 2 trading sessions, the Nifty has gone to around 25,200 and then done a U-turn. However, what's giving you hope is the 25,000 put continues to see a good amount of addition. With the premium at around 80 rupees, it appears there's more amount of writing that's seen at those levels. So the first level you're looking at in terms of support is 24,900. Keep an eye out on that particular mark. Moving to stocks in focus, well, the tech names have been the perennial shorts, right? You go in there, you go and short those stocks and you've been making money. However, in today's trading session, there's a short covering bounce that's playing out on TCS. So the stock has moved up and the open interest is lower. On Titan, actually, we're seeing fresh buying. And after a while, I'm seeing this sort of a surge in terms of open interest. So big buying is what we're seeing on that name. And RBL Bank continues to remain in the F&O ban. We have seen this in the past as well when the stock went to around 265. And then the shorts, they start panicking. And that's what's happening even today. I think it continues in the F&O ban, but that's coming for a bit of a short covering bounce. And finally, Nalco from the metal pack. Nalco is the cleaner play on aluminium prices. So that's why, in fact, that stock is moving up. Vedanta has exposure to other metals as well as oil and gas, while you have Hindalco that's having an issue with regard to Novelis. However, Nalco is the cleanest play on aluminium as of now, and that stock is seeing some good amount of fresh buying today. So some profit taking on the index, not too much to worry till now. 24,900, important mark on the downside. 25,200, that's the near-term resistance. Back to you, Prashant.
Well, very, very interesting, Nigel. Thanks very much for that. And more as we go along. 67 points lower, 25,040. We take a quick commercial break here. Okay, I think Mitesh is with us to run us through what are BTST trades or SDBT trades. Mitesh, what do you have?
I have Infosys on BTST side. Keep a stop at about 1488, look for a 1510 kind of a target. And IGL is another one. That's a BTST with a stop at about 216 for targets at 220.
Okay, all right. I think we can go. Mitesh, thanks very much for that. Infosys, of course, was on Nimesh's chatter list as well. Some big buying and a large order win expected was the chatter, no confirmation. But that's a technical trade for Mitesh. 1494, 1496 or so on the stock. I think, Anand Tandon is with us now. We can go across to him. Anand, good to have you with us here. Thanks very much for your time. I just wanted to ask you, did you see the releases from Ixigo, the travel OTA?
Well, I heard what you said. I haven't seen it myself.
Any thoughts on what could, since you heard it, what could be going on?
That would be pure speculation on my part. I mean, I really don't know why a release like that has to be put out. But I guess since they received a letter which indicated interest, they decided to make it a material news. I mean, it seems like somebody wants to indicate to the market that it's an interesting stock at an interesting price. Beyond that, we actually have to wait to see some action on the ground for it to translate into anything which is worth talking about.
Interesting. Stocks around 5 now, 294, 295 is where we're at. Anand, how are you feeling about the markets though overall?
I mean, I don't think much has changed other than the fact that the government and the RBI in particular has been trying to make sure that consumption demand can grow. So, we've had a bunch of moves in that direction, and therefore you're seeing the effect of that in the market where, the biggest beneficiary of the GST cut is auto, and that has reacted accordingly. And the biggest increase, the sector which is most benefited by the reduction in risk weight are the lenders, and we have seen that accordingly. But beyond that, I think the earnings, I don't think are going to offer too many surprises. And, that is what is going to determine the longer term trend. So we have to wait and watch. I think there is just perhaps a little bit more noise than warranted in terms of IT. But otherwise, obviously, this is a better season, so consumers should do reasonably well.
Anand, stay with us. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll get into some specific names on the other side. Coming right back, I think we're sort of inching closer with about 10 minutes to go for market closing as well. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Markets taking a bit of a dive down actually. Come off the top. So I think we should pull up the intraday chart. Down 70 points now. A few minutes ago, it was down close to around, I think, 30 points. ITI actually has cut its gains from the top. It was up 15%. Now it's up close to around 8%. So some money being taken off the table on that one. BSE as well has done a U-turn. Recall the stock had spiked up. That as well has come in for some profit taking as we speak. But let's get into some opinion. Earlier today, we spoke to Lawrence Blanco of CLSA, who said that he believes that the Nifty will scale fresh all-time highs. So he believes that the 24,000 mark on the downside is extremely important. He also went on to say that crude oil prices as well as the dollar index will remain depressed. Let's listen in.
Well, the positive is that we keep on respecting that 24,000 area. So actually the range is from 24,000 to 24,300. It includes a 200-day moving average. It includes the original February-April double bottom pattern. So that's the significance of this 24,000 to 24,300 area. And you're quite right. We've tested this area on 3 separate occasions that we have bounced off it. So basically keeps the February-April base in place, which still gives us an upside target of 26,300. We now, in global equity markets, move into a more positive sort of seasonal aspect. And our base case on global markets is there's a greater risk for a continuation of the uptrend in a melt-up scenario. And even though the Nifty's been a relative outperformer, particularly if you look at it versus regional markets, we think in absolute terms, we can see a move towards that 26,300 area. The break below the 99 to 100 area confirmed a major market top, we think, for the dollar that had been in a bull run for over 14 years. So we think the break below the 100 area on the dollar index confirmed a major market top. And we still see another 9 to 10% downside because the measured move from the 2022-2025 topping pattern is down to the 89 to 90 area. So that's where we still see the downside risk. I think it is positive for emerging markets in general, as well as the rest of the world, particularly if you look at it versus US equities, which have been the big relative outperformer and absolute outperformer over the past 15 years. So a bit of a shift, we think, driven by that weaker setup in the dollar index. As far as Brent goes, it's been one of the worst performing macro markets that we track, down over 9%. And we do see $70 as the key resistance zone capping the upside.
Okay, all right. Lawrence sounding fairly optimistic on Indian market prospects with a higher index and lower and softer crude as well as the dollar index. Anand Tandon is still with us. Anand, what do you make of the jump we have seen in auto stocks? They have clearly been the outperformers since the time our Prime Minister Narendra Modi said there will be some rationalization on the GST front. Today, those stocks have come for profit taking. Anything you believe is providing an entry opportunity, whether it's Tata Motors, which is at the low point of the day, but it has a JLR play. You have Bajaj Auto as well, that's seen a bit of a downtick, and even Hero MotoCorp.
I think you've seen the GST bust already in the price. It has gone up quite considerably since the time the GST cuts were announced. And while there would be some reason to cheer because the demand should improve because of the significant cut, at least at the higher end, I think it more than adequately prices in whatever we have seen. So you will see better results perhaps coming in this quarter. But overall, I don't know whether there is much left in terms of the sector. I mean, if you are looking for sectors, one should be looking at more boring sectors like which have fallen out of favor. Maybe a company like Larsen, for example, where there is some positive news coming through that they are able to get rid of a millstone around their neck, for example, of the Hyderabad Metro Rail. There are some movements there, and therefore that can have a significant 5% increase in the net profit whenever the deal goes through. So things like that are things which may move the market, may move the prices a little bit. The general purpose indication that we get from policy is very well discounted in the price.
Anand, stay with us. Let me just quickly wrap up the market and we'll come back to you on sort of markets forward in just a bit. 25,028 is where the Nifty finally ends, about 1/3% lower, about 80 points. Nifty banged down 0.5%, 28,290. And of course, a pretty swingy kind of day up and down a few times over. Midcap index and small cap indices also end 0.8, 0.5 down respectively in that range. Market breadth, as you can see, slightly on the negative side as well. Auto names, I think, took a bit of a knock. You had Tata Motors, Mahindra & Mahindra, which were lower. So about 2 and 2.5% respectively. And Titan was the outlier as far as the large cap is concerned on the upside, 4.5% higher. And IT as a pack did not do badly. Infosys, TCS, HCL, Tech and Tech Mahindra ending up between 1 and 2% and showing up in the index as well. Nigel.
Well, a few stocks that did do well. Bluestone Jewelry, that was up 15%. We had Jacob, that was up more than 10%. ITI was up close to around 8.5%. Vikran Engineers, there is some buzz that probably they could win a large order. So that's the hope out there. Stock was buzzing in trade today, up close to around 8.5%. And RBL Bank, well, that stock did pretty well in today's trading session. Street sniffing something, whether or not it comes about, time will tell. For the time, we will wrap up on this edition of Closing Bell. Don't go anywhere. The team of Markets Forward is waiting by.